combination of Renewal Grasps, Stasis Hunter and Agers Scepter is absolutely awesome in PvE, allowing you to freeze, slow and control the flow of the battle with absolute ease. This is a build you can take into endgame content like raids, dungeons, nightfalls and loads more, and today I'm going to run through this Hunter Stasis PVE build with Renewal Grasps and Agers Scepter, so you can freeze and shatter all of your enemies in Destiny 2. Well, if you're new around here or find this useful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below for all the latest Destiny 2 content and turn on notifications by hitting that bell. Roughly 98% of viewers who watch this week in video games aren't subscribed, so subscribe today and never miss an update. Well, without further delay, let's dive into this build, and first of all, let's have a look at the Stasis setup. So for my super, I'm using Silence and Squall, class ability Gambler's Dodge, melee Withering Blade, and my grenade is a Dustfield grenade. For my aspects, I'm using Touch of Winter, so your Glacier, Dustfield and Cold Snap grenades have enhanced functionality, so I'm using the Duskfield here, so specifically that says increase slow field size and creates a small stasis crystal on impact. Also using Grim Harvest, so defeating slowed or frozen combatants creates stasis shards. These shards grant melee energy when picked up by you or your allies. Then with the fragments, I'm using Whisper of Shards. Shattering a crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. Whisper of Rhyme, collecting a stasis shard grants a small amount of overshield. That does fall off after 10 seconds. Whisper of Chains, so while you're near frozen targets or a friendly stasis crystal, you take reduced damage from targets. Whisper of Durance, slow from your abilities last longer, and for those abilities that linger, their duration will also increase. Finally, Whisper of Conduction, nearby stasis shards track your position. Then for the exotic armour, I'm using Renewal Grasps, so they are exotic hunter gauntlets that come with the perk Depths of Duskfield, and your Dustfield grenades have a much larger effect radius. Allies inside the Dustfield take a reduced damage, and targets inside the area deal reduced damage too. You can get these from Lost Sectors when you complete Legend or Master Solo when it is Arms Day. Next up, for the weapons, in the kinetic slot I'm using Agers Scepter. It's an exotic kinetic trace rifle with some very interesting perks. Synergizes really well with all stasis builds. So first of all, we've got Agers Call. Final blows of the weapon generate a slowing burst around the defeated target, and Rieger's Refrain. Stasis final blows transfer ammo to the weapon's magazine from reserves. In the energy slot, I'm using Shadow Price. It's a legendary energy auto rifle with a precision frame, meaning the weapon's recoil pattern is much more predictably vertical. This one's good this season because auto rifles work with anti-barrier champions. So if you don't have Shadow Price, then another energy weapon that deals with champions would just be as good. In the power slot, I'm using Killam's Terminus. It's a legendary power machine gun with a high impact frame, meaning it's slow firing and high damage, and the weapon is more accurate when you're stationary and you're aiming down the sights. Also comes with the origin trait Runneth Over, as do all King's Fall weapons. This is where reloading the allies overflows the magazine and is very, very useful in a raid. It's also a stasis weapon, and it's why it works really well with the build, and you can get it from the King's Fall raid. Looking at the mods, I'm using Elemental Ordnance, so defeating a combatant with a grenade spawns an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type. Bountiful Wells, Elemental Well mods that cause you to spawn. Elemental Well mods that cause you to spawn Elemental Wells now stack, spawning additional wells for each additional copy of the mod you have equipped. Font of Might, so picking up an Elemental Well that matches your subclass energy type grants a temporary bonus to weapon damage. Elemental Shards, so stasis shards count as stasis elemental wells for you. They've got anti-barrier auto rifle overload machine guns, and also cranking that resilience all the way up to 100 for that 40% damage reduction. Okay, next up, let's have a look at the gameplay. So this build is all about freezing, slowing, and creating stasis shards with our Hunter. I'm going to combine Duskfield grenades, Renewal Grasps, and Agers Scepter into this build. It's going to have you controlling the battlefield, slowing and trapping enemies inside shards, and exploding them with the help of our stasis aspects and fragments. So first of all, the Dustfield grenades. So Renewal Grasps are made to pair with Dustfield grenades, given the perk Depths of Dustfield, where your Dustfield grenade has a much larger effect radius. Allies inside the Dustfield take reduced damage, and targets inside the area deal reduced damage as well. Pairs up really, really well with the aspect Touch of Winter, where Dustfield grenades are improved, increasing the slow field size and creates a small stasis crystal on impact. Therefore, we are going to be very effective when it comes to throwing grenades and slowing enemies inside that field, plus helping our allies take reduced damage. Next, we have our Stasis Shards, so our other aspect, Grim Harvest. By defeating slowed or frozen combatants, that creates Stasis Shards, and these shards grant melee energy when they're picked up by you or your allies. This combined with all our fragments, really going to make us deadly in PvE against our enemies. So Whisper of Shards, so shattering a Stasis Crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate, so we're going to be able to throw more grenades more often. We've got Whisper of Rhyme, collecting a Stasis Shard grants a small amount of overshield, really going to help in nightfalls and other endgame activities. Same goes for Whisper of Chains, so when you're near frozen targets or a friendly Stasis Crystal, you take reduced damage from targets. Durance works really well with Dustfield Grenades too. The slow from your abilities lasts even longer. So all of our aspects and fragments combine here really well. Our kinetic weapon, Agers Scepter, really is the icing on the cake, allowing us to blast enemies with a freezing trace rifle, and our final blows of the weapon generate a slowing burst around a defeated target, and it all works together really well to allow you to control the battlefield. Given I'm using Agers Scepter in the kinetic slot, that means my two other weapons are reserved for champions. So here I'm using anti-barrier auto rifle and overload machine gun, and that allowed me to take care of champions in nightfalls without sacrificing anything for this Stasis build. And you can mix and match the weapons to suit the activity you are playing in. However, the key elements to the build are Stasis Hunter, Renewal Grasps and Agers Scepter. The rest is up to you. Well, let me know in the comments what you think of the build, and let me know if you've got any improvements. And that is it for this Hunter Stasis PVE build with Renewal Grasps and Agers Scepter in Destiny 2. And as always, thank you so much for watching or listening. For more Destiny 2 content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. Or check me out on Twitter at TWIVG Podcast. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Well, thanks again. I'll see you soon.
Ones. I hope. But something tells me they'll be back. That's the power of legends. They live on inside us. And in spooky, haunted laboratories.